Hey everyone, this is Katie Sweetman with Empowering Astrology. We're having a little bit of a late start to our live broadcast, so I thank you all for being patient. There's a lot going on this week, and I had a lot of thoughts to gather. So I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're staying safe. So let's talk about a lot of things, and there's a lot of things certainly that are going on in this world and going on here in the United States. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about the astrology, just to give us a sense of what's happening, why now, what are these bigger forces, and how we can use this time to do better individually and to do better collectively. So I did want to dedicate this live broadcast to the memory of George Floyd, who died just after the Gemini new moon. And I've been getting a lot of questions about like what's going on. And I wrote about this and even talked about it in one of our previous broadcasts where this new moon was going to have a lot of Neptune energy in it. And what is Neptune energy? Neptune energy, when it's really strong within a lunar month, we tend to see things that really challenge our heart and really challenge our soul. And we feel a lot of deep emotions come out. And that's what's happening right now. And sort of Neptune is exposing something that was always there, a deep suffering. And now we have to do the work to heal it. And the other question that I've been getting is, why now? Is this the eclipses? And yeah, absolutely. This is the eclipses. And as I record this on Monday, not January, geez, June 1st, 2020. And by the way, this is for the astrology of June 1st until June 7th, 2020. As I record this, we're a few days away from a lunar eclipse. So it's the first in a trio of eclipses. And when we step into eclipse season, and this can happen even as many as 4 weeks before the first eclipse, we we're not in ordinary time, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And certainly everything that's going on is not ordinary. And we last had eclipses December of 2019 and January of 2020. And so that was the last time sort of the great wheel of life, the great fate, the wheel of fate started to turn. And so here we are. And so life right now is capital L life. Events are happening both on a personal level and on a collective level. We are at a crossroads. And I don't want people to approach eclipses from this like really fearful thing, because eclipses, they punctuate our life. They sort of talk about the personal milestones. They talk about where is time unfolding right now. And that's the thing about astrology. Astrology teaches us about time. It teaches us about our relationship with time, and it teaches us about how time is unfolding within us and around us. And I mean, that's the thing about astrology. You can look just at sun signs, but we're sort of like only getting like just a little bit of the story. And in this time, we're sort of, when the eclipses happen, it's when sort of the analogy that I often use, it's like you're watching a theatrical performance, and you're watching this one scene, and then it's the end of the scene, and then the curtain comes down, and then the curtain comes up, and it's a completely different scene. And that's what eclipses do. They sort of mark chapters of time. They mark the arc of time, both on a collective level and on a personal level. And an eclipse can sort of braid its way or weave its way through these different moments of our life, kind of forwards and backwards, because time is a spiral. In fact, and this is just me being a science nerd, when you look at eclipses, they're all part of this, what's called a Saros series. They're part of a series of eclipses that will have a beginning, and that beginning will take place at either the North Pole or the South Pole. And over a course of like 800, 900 years, these eclipses will spiral up and down the earth. It's like almost like the Kundalini. So each eclipse, even though maybe we're talking about June of 2020, this eclipse, I believe this eclipse had its first beginning in the 1300s. Now, I wasn't alive then. I mean, I don't know, maybe not a lifetime, but you and I weren't alive then. So, it's these moments in time that are massive, that are bigger than us. And here we are, June of 2020, and a lot of things are going on. How that's connected to this bigger story, this greater story, both for you personally and for you and for all of us collectively. So as we speak, and this eclipse season is sort of, it's going back and forth between two different chapters. So the eclipse that we have on the 5th of June, so Friday, 5th of June here in the US and in Canada and in the UK and Europe, but in Australia it will be June 6th. This is opening up a new story. So this story, what's happening this week is the beginning of a story. And this, whatever conversations we're having, whatever meetings we're having, whatever events are transpiring are going to weave their way through our experiences and through our life into the end of 2021, because that's when these eclipses in Sagittarius and Gemini, as we are kind of just starting to step into, will come to a close. And of course, that period of time is connected to a bigger period of time. The last time the eclipses were in Sagittarius and Gemini was 2001, 2002. Then we go 18, 19 years before that, and then 18, 19 years before that. Then you start to see these repeating patterns of time. But when we start to zoom out that big, we sort of lose kind of the more the personal aspects. But I think it's important for those who remember and maybe what was going on in 2001, 2002, what was going on a personal level. Certainly a lot was going on a collective level. The half cycle of eclipses are every 9 years. So in 2011 and 2012 and maybe a little bit in 2013, we had eclipses in Sagittarius and Gemini, but they were reversed. The nodes were reversed. So it's important to think like what was going on in 2011, 2012, and how those experiences sort of thread their way through our experiences right now. When we step into eclipse season, it's a sense of a liminality. We're in between stories, we're in between chapters, we're in between stages of life, and the things that the people that we meet and the things that we do tend to have a lot of weight. There's a magic and a magnetism to eclipse season, and they will tell the story of you in, let's say, 2020. Where are the eclipses for you? That's sort of talking about the story that's unfolding for you, and that story might be a new relationship or a marriage or a baby or a new job. So they sort of align with these milestones in our life. Eclipses, and this is just a side note, they have a connection. They sort of echo back to when we were born. The lunar nodes, and the lunar nodes are what makes eclipses happen. So they were at a certain place in the sky when we were born. And those two signs, because they form an axis, they're always opposite. There's the north node and the south node. Talk about where is sort of the story arc of our life and the story arc of our soul for this life. And so the things that we experience around eclipses, they do echo back to the natal story, meaning where the nodes were when you were born. For me, I have a north node in Virgo. So when the eclipses happen, these kind of stories around needing to teach and needing to share and needing to be of service and organize and all these Virgo themes sort of come back. And I have a south node in Pisces. So these kind of deeper spiritual themes sort of come for me, forward for me to work work them out. And that, I kind of give you that personal example because for those who know your astrology a little bit more, you might know where your lunar nodes are. And so this is a time when you have to check in with your soul's journey and your soul story. If you're here to learn creativity and self-expression and to be yourself, then this eclipse is going to bring that story forward. But for all of us, because it's in Sagittarius, it's a bigger story around faith, truth, and meaning. And faith and truth and meaning are going to be something that we are all collectively work through for the next kind of 18 months. The South Node is now in Sagittarius. It moved from Capricorn to Sagittarius back in May 6th, or was it May 5th? And this is a time when we have to examine maybe the way that we see the world or see ourselves, maybe the faith that we put in things, or the beliefs that we have. Sagittarius is a very spiritual sign, very philosophical sign, but it finds its wisdom in the world. It finds it in a book, as opposed to, let's say, Pisces. Sagittarius is sort of the yin to Sagittarius is yang. Pisces finds that wisdom within. It fits the mysticism and the faith within, the truth within. So, I hope that you all are doing well. Like I said, eclipse season, capital L life. So capital L life is happening right now. But, let's talk about where this eclipse is going to happen for each sign. So at least you have something to sort of understand the framework of what's going on. So if you are an Aries, this eclipse is in your sign of faith, truth, and wisdom. So you're sort of stepping out of a period of your life with the last set of eclipses, which were about career, and really making some career changes. And now you're starting to go towards this deeper question of like, what do I believe in? What is my truth? What is my faith? Do I have a loss of faith? Do I need to completely re-examine? When the South Node in Sagittarius, and this is true for all of us, and even true for those who were born with the South Node in Sagittarius, we need to be okay with being wrong. And it's quite possible that we are all wrong in our own way right now. Who has the truth? So, South Node in Sagittarius means we need to sort of re-examine our convictions, re-examine the hills that we are, willing to die upon. Is it worth it? So, for you, Aries, this is a time when you're having to look at these deeper questions of faith and meaning. And also get new perspective because the North Node is in Gemini right now. If you are a Taurus, this is a time in your life where this eclipse is about these kind of deeper emotional stuff, doing your shadow work, facing the deepest parts of yourself and doing the transformation work. Sagittarius forms a part of your chart that we all have to sort of go through at different points in our life. We have to sort of do the psychological work, do the emotional work. We have to heal the past and release the things that we've been holding on to. And this even might mean like releasing these judgments or beliefs or traumas around judgment and belief that are sort of holding us back so we can find safety and new perspective again. This theme also, or this eclipse also talks about money and finance. So that might be something that's coming up for you right now, Taurus. Side note, it's worth mentioning because the South Node's now in Sagittarius that from 2015 until 2017, I don't know if you all were paying attention at that time, that's when Saturn was in Sagittarius, and we were doing a lot of kind of collective work and deeper work on Sagittarian themes, on education, on wisdom, on philosophy, on belief, on truth. And so, these eclipses sort of take us back to 2015, 2017 to re-examine some of the things that we built on a more of a philosophical level, and to either they work or they don't work. need to be rebuilt or not rebuilt. So moving on to Gemini. Gemini, Sagittarius is your relationship sign. So this is the part of your chart where this might coincide with major relationship milestones over the next 18 months. Somebody might be coming in, somebody, if you're in an existing relationship, like how do you and a partner sort of renegotiate the relationship? Maybe there's needing to sort of take things in a new direction within the structure of the relationship. This is a time when, if you're not in a relationship, this might naturally coincide with a new relationship coming in. Because remember, I was saying eclipses, they coincide with kind of these milestones in our life. And so when there's eclipses in the relationship sign, it's very common that somebody comes in, or there's a marriage, or there's a moving in, there's some sort of kind of significant milestone, or there's an ending of a relationship. If the relationship is just not working, the eclipse sort of makes that apparent, and then you sort of have to react. This eclipse on June 5th is a lunar eclipse, and just FYI, lunar eclipses demand action. There's a sense of urgency. We have to see things for what they really are, whether that's a relationship, whether that's an deep emotional thing, whether that's something else. So that's something that's weaving itself through our experiences right now. Moving on to what's after Gemini, Cancer. Cancer, this is the part of your chart that talks about your health, your wellness, how you take care of yourself, how you organize your day, how you show up on a day-to-day life. So this is a time for you to really focus on how you take care of your body and the foods you eat, and maybe the things that you have to do on that level. This is a time when I think that sometimes we can get really stuck in our ways, and this eclipse is trying to get you to sort of open your eyes and open up to something new. So how do you look at Cancer? How do you look at your bad habits? This is what's called a South Node eclipse. So it means we're sort of all collectively looking at the part of that sign and the part of that chart that's not working, because the South Node is about doing our karmic work, doing our soul work, so we can release something. So this is why when I say for Cancer, it's like, what do you look at your bad habits? What do you see is not working for you in the health and wellness department? Because the North Node is now in what's called your 12th house. So this is a time when you have to sort of open up and release and let go and forgive. There's a sense of spirituality, and there's a sense of service to this time for you. Moving on to Leo, this is the part of your chart that talks about creativity, self-expression, identity, persona, children. So this might be a time when you are naturally sort of being you in your Leo way. There's a lot of creativity, a lot of creative projects, but also where are you sort of shortchanging your creativity, or you need to sort of open up how you express who you are, and maybe you've sort of formed a certain rigid view of who you are, and then here comes the eclipses and they're sort of shaking that up. Also, this part of the chart for you, if this is relevant, does talk about pregnancy and children. So eclipses in this part of the chart can naturally bring a pregnancy. Again, if that's something that you want and desire in your lives. If you don't, just take precaution. So moving on to Virgo, this is the part of your chart that talks about home and family, and your living situation. Is very common when the eclipses start to line up with this part of your chart, which is the foundation of your chart, that there is a move, or there's a change in the home, or there's a change in who's living in your home. So this is a part of a time when you might be making a move, you might be doing some renovations, you might be family needs your help, but there's a sense of stuff from the past that you now have to deal with. Virgo, you might have to face something that you haven't wanted to face. You have to look at how you're not getting your needs met, and how do you get your emotional needs met, and how do you feel safe in this world. So this is, you're kind of doing this work right now, on the other side of things, Virgo. The eclipses are now in your career sign. So note that as you sort of go out in the world and you try to focus on your career and building a career, you need to make sure that your home life is where it needs to be so it can support your goals and ambitions in the world. Libra. So this is the part of your chart that talks about education, information, ideas, learning. You might be taking more classes over the next 18 months. You might be teaching. You might be going back to school in some way. You might be traveling more, which we'll see what that means with everything that's going on. But it's also a time when you need to re-examine how you see things, sort of the words that you use and the information that you gather, and how, kind of the education that you have. Does it need to be reworked? Do you need new perspective? Do you need new ideas? Do you need to sort of believe that you sort of know what you need to know at this point? The North Node is in your what's called your ninth house, your ninth sign. So this is a part of your chart where over the next 18 months, you need to go out there in the world. You need to sort of profess what you believe in and sort of demonstrate that you have the wisdom to do what you need to do in the world at this time. Scorpio. This is the part of your chart that talks about money, how you earn it, how you value it, how you spend it, how you gather it. It's about resource. So this is a time where you need to look at some maybe deeply held beliefs around money and stability. Maybe what you thought you needed or what you thought you valued is not what you really need. Maybe you have inherited, or certain systems have been imposed upon you, where that's not really what your value system is. So there's a sense that you need to kind of get new perspectives, dismantle maybe some negative value structures that aren't working anymore. This includes how you value yourself. Maybe you haven't valued yourself. Maybe you've traded on a currency that doesn't work anymore. This might be a time when there is a change in how you earn a living, or a change in what you value. Maybe you're spending money differently, but this is a time also with the North Node in Gemini where you're sort of taking a leap of faith. You're diving into the unknown. You're doing your transformation work. You're sort of leaving what's comfortable, even if it's not truly comfortable, in order to find something new. This is a time when Scorpio is doing a lot of the natural Scorpio work. Gemini is Scorpio's 8th house, which just gives you so much insight into Scorpio. That Scorpio can kind of have that Gemini quality to it. So there's a need to really examine the self during this time, Scorpio. Sagittarius, this eclipse is in your sign. So this is both a new beginning, the start of a new cycle, a time when you sort of have to examine the self and how you express yourself. And maybe this is more about you opening up to other people. This is about bringing in new people and sort of catering to the needs and wants of other people. It's a natural time for a relationship. And over this time, Sagittarius, you might have a new relationship come in. You might focus on other people more. You might have a new romantic relationship, or new relationships in general. But what it means is that it's not about what you want right now. So you have to sort of examine where you might be a little sort of holding on to, like, well, it has to be this way. In order for people to come into your life, you have to learn to negotiate. You have to learn to compromise. You have to learn to kind of figure out what is a value and a boundary that you're going to stick to no matter what, and what really isn't. So you're sort of having to do that dance back and forth right now, Sagittarius. My Sagittarius, my Geminis, your life is sort of turning in a different direction right now. It's what it does every 9 years, every 18 years, as I was talking about those previous cycles, 2011, 2012, 2001, 2002. Capricorn, this is the time, or this is the part of your chart that talks about your beliefs, your inner world, your spirituality, mysticism, dreams, unconscious blind spots. Capricorn, you had to do a lot of deep spiritual work, 2015, 2017. So in a way, this is sort of going back and reviewing some of those deeper spiritual themes that you were working through back a few years ago. But this is a time when it's about leaving, getting out of those blind spots and getting out of the, I don't know, kind of negative beliefs in order to come into the world, find practice, and bring something into reality. This is a time when you really need to focus on your spiritual health, focus on also your physical health, but sort of leaving behind things. When I think of this part or this sort of dynamic, I think how sometimes we can sort of get stuck in ourselves, and that in order to get unstuck out of ourselves, we really need the practice, the ritual, the discipline that what's called the sixth house brings. So this is a time when you have to sort of find practice, find a ritual, find discipline in order to get your life sort of reorganized in the way that it needs to be organized. Aquarius. So this is the part of your chart that talks about community. It talks about friendships, social networks, social circle, systems. This is a part of your chart that, where you might see the world in a certain way, and maybe what you believe in and how you see the world, and sort of, there's an element of politics to this part of the chart. Maybe you need to re-examine how that looks. How do you open up your eyes to different perspectives? How do you see the world differently? This might involve communities and getting involved in new communities, or examining communities that you're engaged in that aren't quite working for you anymore. With the North Node in Gemini, you need to open up to the self, really value the self, express your individuality, and not get lost in the mix. Last but not least, Pisces. This is your career sign. Sagittarius is your career sign, by the way. So this eclipse is sort of bringing you into a period of your life where over the next 18 months, you might see career changes, career shifts, going off into a new direction, kind of examining if the path that you're on with your career is the path that you want to be on. So you might be getting a new job, you might be going off into a different career direction during this time, or you might be looking at how possibly neglecting the home with the North Node in Gemini, and Gemini forms Pisces root, its foundation. You have to take care of the home front. You have to spend time with the family. Kind of this image comes to mind of somebody who's always working, but sort of neglects the softer side of life, sort of neglects the part that needs to be nurtured and cared for, and be with the people that you love. So you're sort of doing this dance right now, Pisces. I just wanted you to have a sense of where these eclipses are unfolding. 2 weeks from now, we're going to have a solar eclipse. 2 weeks after that, we're going to have the lunar eclipse on June 5th. I kind of wanted to, put that in context with some of the things that are going on in the world. I know that with Saturn in Aquarius right now, Saturn has been in Aquarius since March 21st. We're having a little bit of a preview right now because Saturn will leave Aquarius on July 1st, but we're having a Saturn return of the civil rights movement. We're the internet is having a Saturn return, because the internet was formed as a public thing in 1991. So these things are now all coming up again. Saturn's in Aquarius. It's about the bigger picture. It's about technology. It's about technological advances, but it's also about equity. It's also about community. It's also how we connect to each other and how we disconnect to each other. So we are all needing to do our work. This is something that I say every year when people ask me, are things going to get better? We are in a passage of humanity where everything has to change. The astrology as it is, the way that everything is sort of lined up right now, it's telling us that everything has to change. Pluto is in Capricorn. It's been in Capricorn since 2008. Capricorn is matter and structure, is government and power. Pluto sort of shows we have to systematically tear down and rebuild things. That's just a neutral statement of what Pluto wants from us right now. And certainly when we look back, we can see a lot of shifts since 2008. And even as we went into 2020, I know you all thought I was being a little dramatic when I called 2020 the wrecking ball, because Saturn and Pluto were coming together in the sky for the first time in 40 years, but the first time in Capricorn, the sign of matter and structure and government, that we would see some big changes. And was hoping not to have this big of changes, but there was some part of our life where we would see the wrecking ball, where something would be torn down in order something new to be rebuilt. So we are in that time, unfortunately. Things are coming down. They need to be rebuilt. I just want to quickly give you the times for the solar eclipse lunar eclipse on June 5th. Is at 3:13 p.m. Eastern, so New York time, on June 5th, it's at 12:13 p.m. in Los Angeles. It's at 8:13, sorry, I can't read my writing, p.m. in London, and 5:13 a.m. Sydney on June 6th, and 7:13 a.m. in Auckland, also on June 6th. So yeah, eclipses, big time. Yes, there's this kind of more collective level of what's happening right now, but really sit with what's happening on a personal level. What are you feeling? What's moving within you? What are you re-examining? Eclipses, they are potent forces, sort of the veil sort of gets pulled back a little bit, and we step into a new time, and we step into a new container and a new expression of time. And that's what is happening. And it's really when we get to the solar eclipse that's on the 21st of June that we're really truly stepping into a new time. And it's the same day as the solstice, and there's a sense of new beginnings and powerful new beginnings. And both these eclipses, both the one on June 5th and the one on June 21st, is highlighting a lot of deep pain. The Neptune, the Mars, it's square Mars. And so we all have to sort of do some collective work and collective healing right now. And at the very least, do that healing on a personal level. But the one that's on the 21st of June, that one is square Chiron. It's sort of pressing on a lot of scar tissue, both collectively and personally. So it's a big week. What I'm doing for the eclipses, and maybe you have seen me talk about this in some of the things that I've offered, some things that I've written, is that I'm part of this eclipse circle that's starting on June 7th. It's called Braiding the Spiral, and I'm co-teaching, co-leading this eclipse with two astrologers, Christina Caudill and Virginia Rosenberg. It's 6 Sundays of these kind of 90-minute-ish guidance and teaching and transformation work. And we're sort of using this eclipse time to create positive change within ourselves. And this, I recorded a webinar. It's a free webinar. I did this on this weekend. You can still watch it, but you can only watch it for the next few days. So this should be in the show notes. Go to the show notes after this broadcast so you can sign up and register and watch this. It kind of gives you an overview of these eclipses. And then today is the last day that you can sign up for what's called the early bird registration. Yes, today, last day, Monday, but then registration closes on June 5th, the day of the eclipse. And so we're going to be creating something very special. Again, 6 Sundays of these sort of 90-minute sessions, whether you are able to attend them live or to watch them when you can right after. But we are certainly in very interesting times when we need to do our healing work individually and collectively. I'm just kind of checking back in on the comments. Thank you all for saying hi, and saying hi from Australia and Sweden and Italy. Very much, again, would like to be in Italy. I do have a ticket to Rome that I bought for like $380, and I'm kind of sitting on it, and I'm like, we'll see what happens. But it was so cheap. But anyway, that's just me. I have Sagittarius rising. I can't stop traveling, so sitting in my apartment for the last 3 months is kind of not my normal speed. But yes, hi from New York. I see Fran is also watching. I see Marina. These are 2 friends of mine. But yes, thank you all for your support, your love, your dedication. I've been doing these 5:30 p.m. Eastern daily meditations. I know some of you have joined. We've sort of been doing it every day since March 18th to create a sense of community and unity and create a practice that creates a sense of calm and structure during this time. And now, with everything that's going on, at least here in the States, we're kind of using this time to create healing on a collective level. So if that's something that you are interested in, I can't remember if I put that in the show notes. I will certainly go back and double check. We're doing this kind of daily guided 30-minute meditations. Would love to have you as a part of that. So thank you all for your time and watching this, whether you're watching the replay on YouTube or IGTV, or listening on Spotify, or watching it here on Facebook. But do take care. Take care of yourself. Like, the energy is really intense right now. If you can, create a sense of personal self-care and get quiet and still. There's still a lot of Neptune energy and what's going on right now. Examine your faith, like get back in touch with your faith, sit, be quiet, read. I mean, if you can, of course. I realize that that's a luxury for some people. So in the meantime, stay safe, take care. And Bernadette is asking about joining the meditation. If I need to put the link in the show notes. It's not sort of, if you go to my website and go to the most recent posting, my Astro Daily, it's listed in the links at the bottom, but I'll put it in the show notes just to make it easy for everybody. But it's, it's a daily guided meditation. You just have to sign up for it. That's all. So thank you again for your time. Follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram, also on Twitter. At empoweringastrology.com. Again, my name is Katie Sweetman. I'm an astrologer, holistic astrologer, and psychic medium here in Brooklyn, New York. I do client consultations. I've been quite busy with you all, working with you all during this time, getting you ready for the eclipses. So you can also book time with me. So until then, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.